Welcome back. Former Tory leader and the MP for Chingford and Woodford Green, Sir Iain Duncan Smith, joins me in the studio. Lovely to see you, Sir Iain, and you've just come back from Ukraine. We're just talking about it in the break there.
Yeah.
And it's quite a stark warning that you've brought back to the UK. It's in the Mail on Sunday. It's a double-page spread. I do urge you to go and read it because you basically spoke to military people out there and they're saying we've got about 6 months left. And you're very worried about capitulation on the behalf of the West on this.
At worst, they said we've got 6 months, and it's getting close to worst. At best, I guess, maybe a year or so. But they're running out of ammunition. The weapons that were promised to them still haven't all arrived. The ammunition hasn't arrived. They said to me starkly, look, for every round we chuck over at them, they'll chuck 4, 5 or more. You know, they just completely outgun us. And then we've got to move. It's a drone war now. This has changed warfare forever. So you can't loiter anywhere. You've got to move fast because the drones will pick you up and then artillery comes in, or else they just dive in and explode on you. It's really brutal. They don't have the manpower that Russia has, so they're fighting. They need the equipment desperately. Russia loses about 1,500 men a day. They don't care. They just throw waves of people at them, and they're just, you know, they can't resist to a degree. So it is very dangerous. They're brave people. They do believe in their democracy and their freedom. And of all countries, that we should be recognising this is our fight. I'm not asking us to put troops on the ground, but I am saying that America and Europe need to do much, much more to give them the tools, as Churchill asked for. Give us the tools and we'll finish the job. And they can do that, but not if we don't give them the help and support.
And what's your message to Donald Trump on this? Because we know he's basically saying, you know, this isn't our war to fight, but it's bigger than America's isolationist policy.
It's what I wrote in the article. I said, look, if Ukraine goes down, then Russia and China, who are tied together, you know, literally tied together. China supports Russia. It's got North Korea giving it arms and weapons. Iran was involved in supporting them, again brokered by China. China's watching. If Russia succeeds, China will be emboldened on Taiwan. And America says we'll have to support Taiwan. It'll be too late by then. I wrote the last line, I said, the road to Taiwan now runs through Ukraine. And unless America wakes up to that fast, and Europe, by the way, then we'll find ourselves in the 1930s all over again. You know, we gave away the German-speaking part of Czechoslovakia thinking it would appease Hitler. He didn't. He took Czechoslovakia. He then went on to Poland, then invaded Russia, invaded France. All of this happens by dictators tell you what they want. Putin has told us clearly he wants Ukraine, and then he's going to look at the other ex-Soviet territories. He's told us that. Xi in China has told us he wants Taiwan and a greater China, and he's committing genocide. He uses slave labour. All of this, what do? We do absolutely nothing.
Well, I tell you what we are doing, apparently giving the green light to a massive Chinese embassy next to Tower Bridge.
I agree. It's the wrong place, certainly.
I mean, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, apparently is minded to allow this thing to go ahead. What's your reaction to that?
It'll be the biggest kowtow in British history. It'll be us on bended knee, maybe on our faces, saying to China, please, 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 just give us some trade. They're not going to do anything about that. And by the way, they're about to dump cheap electric cars on the UK market. Europe is looking at tariffs on those. We aren't at all. We have become absolutely facile. And I worry about that enormously. I say to the government, you're taking the wrong course. It doesn't work with China. China doesn't care about the UK. They just want to grow and to be dominant.
And are you as suspicious as others are that they want to strategically be in that area of London because they can try and intercept underground cables?
There are underground cables going past. We know that none of the local residents want it in Tower Hamlets. We know the council doesn't want it. We know that there are 200 British citizens living in the grounds that would become Chinese territory because they have their flats and apartments there. This would be a nightmare. They would be literally governed under Chinese law.
Is this naivety or stupidity?
Well, MI5 doesn't want them. We know MI5 and MI6 are utterly opposed to it.
So why aren't Rayner and Starmer listening to it?
Because they're in the game of cozying up to China at the moment. I mean, I know lots of Labour MPs that are deeply worried now about their position over China. Really, a lot of them. IPAC, the Interparliamentary Alliance on China. We have 40 countries globally. We have a lot of Labour MPs involved. and a growing number.
Okay.
And they are very worried about this. So it's not just a case of a Tory attacking Labour. It's the other way around.
So you could say cozying up to China, but not necessarily to Trump. What do you make? You were involved. You have some link to Trump sort of offering us a trade deal back in the day. Was it 2018 when he came and the blimp was put in the sky by or sanctioned by Sadiq Khan? You know that Trump wants a trade deal because you discussed it with him personally. What happened here?
Well, I don't know how we managed to get in, but I got in to see Trump when he was here for the state visit. I've got a good friend in America who was able to get us in. He had a spare time. He was very happy to see us. And we talked about trade. I had about 45 minutes with him, I think. And I was struck by two things. First of all, he immediately said he was very keen. He loved Britain. He loves the monarchy, by the way. He said, I love this country. It's a great country. You know, we want to get closer to it. And we'd had a problem over prolonged discussions on trade. And I said there was an easier way to do it. You do it sector by sector. You leave the bad bits, difficult bits till last. And he said, the moment he looked at me and went, and I was with another colleague, and he said, I like these guys. We're going to do their deal. And the then ambassador said, no, there's no deal here. And he said, no.
What was that, Willie Johnson at the time?
We're going to do the deal. And the thing is, he wants to have a trade deal.
Yes.
He's made it clear. If he's going to slap tariffs on the European Union, we should be focusing on getting a deal done with him because it is our single biggest trading partner. We actually have a slight trade surplus with America. Yes. We have a massive trade deficit and have had forever with Europe and with China. So we should be turning to how we maximise our trade.
Is Peter Mandelson the man to help negotiate this? Does Nigel Farage need to, in the interest of the country, go and try and help broker a deal with Trump? Well, how should it work?
I mean, he's always welcome to go and do what he likes with President Trump. But my view is Trump actually does like the UK. And Biden didn't.
Yes.
Let's be honest, Biden was pretty cheap over the UK. But he does like the UK. And notice he's kept it out of all his talks about the countries he's angry with.
Yeah.
He was very clear to me about financial services, that between America and Britain, we really could rocket boost financial services for us. All of that, I think, he understands. So, whatever else people feel about him, it is the government's job to make sure that the UK does not suffer if there are disputes and that we have this opportunity to do trade. So whoever's the ambassador, if Peter Mandelson is, I would say to him, make that your priority.
Now, you were one of the Brexit Spartans, a long-time Eurosceptic. What do you make of some of the polling on Brexit now, 5 years on from the signing of that withdrawal agreement? Just 3 in 10 Britons now say that it was right for the UK to vote to leave. Got 55% saying it was wrong for the country to have left. It's, a story of regret. Do you feel
actually,
regret?
the polling is interesting because it doesn't actually say that it's moved dramatically. What it says is that about 47, 48 people would still vote to stay and the others wouldn't. But there was a very interesting piece by John Curtis the other day who said, when you ask them...
The polling guru, just to remind people.
When you ask them what they're really after, is that they wanted more change and that they'd be prepared to support that. The story about Brexit is we've got to be bold by taking advantage. Number one, I wrote a paper called the Tigger Report.
Yes.
Task Force
on Innovation. Well, you gave it to Boris Johnson.
We did.
And it got ignored. So
well, some of it was done, but not enough.
Isn't the story of Brexit, and I'm sorry to say this as a former leader of the party, that the Tories absolutely bungled this, that you had Brexit opportunities that you should have maximised, failed to do so while you're in government, and now no one can be surprised as the arch-Remainer, Keir Starmer, takes over and is now talking about realigning with the EU. If the Conservatives had done a good job originally, we wouldn't be in this mess.
I don't disagree with you. All I would say is the number one key element that was part of this, which we didn't do, which was to maximise the re-arrival of English common law over our regulations. Get rid of the European legal change over regulations and make them under common law, which is far less intrusive, and make sure that, therefore, you don't step in to regulate unless it's clear and obvious evidence that some damage is being done. That's the way that it always worked. And by the way, the common law is shared all over the Anglosphere. America, Canada, all the Far East now are wanting all their business sections done in common law. And so we are the architects of the original best law in the world. What we have failed to do is bring it back across all of the elements that we should do and maximise that. Free trade comes from the back of that. As I keep saying, America wants a trade deal. Why is that made easier for us? Because we are both users of common law. That means our financial services work very easily with theirs, and that's why our trade with them is so big. But biggest investor in America? The UK.
I know.
Biggest investor in the UK? America.
And yet,
there's a reason for that, and then we can maximise that.
And that you have to admit that the Tories have squandered not only their opportunity, but also a lot of their electorate on the back of failures to deliver Brexit. OK, we can talk about high tax. We can talk about high immigration. It's a problem for your party, isn't it, that we've now got 3 different polls, I think, this week, putting reform ahead, not just of you, but ahead of Labour. When it comes to delivering on Brexit, people trust Nigel Farage more than Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah, we're in a peculiar time politically in flux, because this government has the biggest majority it's ever had, but it had it on 33% of the poll, which has never been heard of before. The right of the political spectrum has divided itself between the two. I understand all of that. These are problems. But I still think that at the end of it all, the Conservative Party will be the party that is the only one that will be able to deliver. Now, others will argue, reform are there, they're going to rise up. We don't know where they're going. You don't know what happens when they come under the test of what are their policies, how will they work.
People will argue. You had 14 years to deliver.
I understand that. I have argued all along for us to be doing all of those things that we've just been talking about, for us to have maximised the benefits of Brexit, for us to have made sure that the Conservatives did the things we were asked to do by controlling the immigration, etc. All of this, we got hit by COVID, we got hit again by what happened after the Ukraine war. These knocked us off, to be fair. What we need to do is get back to the basics of being a Conservative and show that this has historical roots in everything that we do, and it's not just a temporary party.
So Iain Duncan Smith, thank you very much indeed for coming into the studio this morning. I do urge you to read his piece in the Mail on Sunday.